Hey everyone, welcome to Talks of Thailand. My name is Jon. Today's story is about a man who says his Thai wife became too comfortable in their relationship, and that is the reason that everything went wrong. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, give the video a like, and let's get in to today's story. They say that you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I've always believed that with the firmest kind of belief that you could hold. I didn't think that the opposite of that could even be possible. You can't teach an old dog new tricks, though you can teach an old dog how to hide who it really is for a long time until it wants to be who it is. Then you can't teach that old dog new tricks. I suppose that's where I ended up when I was in Thailand, doing the things I was doing, believing the things I was doing were right, when ultimately they weren't. They were wrong, they were dead wrong, and I destroyed my life because of it. I want to put this out there to warn others exactly how things can go wrong if you're not careful, and if you do the insane things that I did, believing that everything was going well. Let me start right at the beginning, because that's usually the best place to start in a story like this. I, just like many guys, was fed up with the state of life back at home. The sense of being overlooked, that was me too. The sense of being jaded, yes, that was me too. The sense of going to work and not getting anything to show for it, that was definitely me too. I was just your classic sort of guy who was not having any luck being able to fulfill life at home, and I needed some way to be able to escape from the monotony of day-to-day life, because if I didn't, I would just wither away and die in a pool on the floor. I'm not exaggerating when I'm talking like this. I know there will be people out there claiming that I'm wrong and I'm an idiot and everything I did is the cause of everything that happened to me, and you're free to have that opinion. Though you're only seeing it from one angle, which is your angle, the guarded angle, that you're not going to go out and get anything bad happen to you because you're never going to try, and you want to not try, and not trying is what helps you not find happiness. At least I tried, at least I thought I found happiness, and at least I lived happiness for a certain amount of time. Ultimately, that happiness wasn't real, was it? It was fake, and it all came tumbling down. That was me, though, about 10 years ago now, probably slightly more than that. It's scary how fast time goes away, and all those years that have passed, and all those years that have been wasted. It's scary to think about. I'm probably closer to 12 years if I'm thinking about it, and I decided I wanted to make the pilgrimage to Thailand. It was like a rite of passage, I felt, because where I worked, it was a huge call centre for one of the banks. A very boring and dull job. And I had lots of people working with me, and we had to man the phones, answering calls from angry customers about something going wrong with their bank account, and it was so mundane. I tried to apply for other jobs, I tried to train up, and I tried to do other things, though no matter what I applied for, no matter what I did, nothing ever happened to make me take myself out of that situation, and I was getting older, in my late 40s, and it's just getting to the point where, what am I actually going to do, and what am I actually getting for all this that I'm doing? It was a huge office there, and time again, based on the fact that we probably had 1,000 people working across a number of floors, and you'd hear about it during these ridiculous team-building exercises that you were forced to do. People would talk where they'd been on holiday, and occasionally you'd get a single guy saying he'd been to Thailand. It was great. Then another guy's been to Thailand, and it was great for him too. Then I'm going to talk to these guys, and on the lunch hour that we had, trying to get a word in, trying to have an ear to what they were talking about, and I gathered that Thailand was a place where people could reinvent themselves and could establish themselves in a different kind of light to the light they were in at home. They weren't the guy working a job he didn't want to work anymore, doing things he didn't want to do anymore. They weren't that. They were a different breed. They were sophisticated, they were knowledgeable, they were worldly, they were explorers, they were everything that they'd wanted to be. Thailand allowed them to be that. That's what I'd gathered. Thailand really did allow people to be the people they wanted to be. While one of the guys who was working there actually picked up and left and moved to Thailand, and I was just treading water, thinking about it for a number of years before I actually decided to go. And it was deciding to go that changed the course of my life. Because when I got to Thailand, like so many people say, it was a whirlwind of emotions. It was a culmination of dreams coming true, multiple dreams all at once coming true. A culmination of understanding that there was an escape out there. There was light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that's the most important thing to point towards. There was light at the end of the tunnel, finally, in a life that had been awful, in a life that had been a drudge, a constant battle against the inadequacy of feeling underwhelmed at home. Thailand was the light at the end of that awful tunnel. You have to remember, as soon as you land in Bangkok, the light is approaching you quicker than the speed of light, for an analogy that I'm trying to search for here. All of a sudden, you've got to the end of the tunnel and you're seeing things around you that you cannot even imagine, that your wildest dreams cannot even talk to you about. You're not sitting watching TV and your mind's talking to you, telling you what should be happening and what life you should be living in your head as opposed to living it in the real world, because the real world doesn't offer you the excitement and the adventure and the fulfillment of the world in your head. Thailand was better than the world in your head. Based on what a number of guys at the office had spoken about, where they'd been and where they found themselves, I headed straight to Pattaya. It was meant to be a paradise, and it was a paradise. I followed the same path that many guys did, getting a taxi at Suvarnabhumi Airport, going down this big tollway, just looking out of the window thinking, to be honest, this isn't great. I couldn't picture what was so good about it. They had these huge up and down bits on the road when they were driving over, like waterways, I think they were, and you feel sick when the taxi driver's bombing as fast as he can and he's going up and down these things, and you feel really sick at the bottom of it. Not huge things, kind of like big ups and downs and big flows and dips, and I suppose if you've never driven on the roads you won't be able to picture it. But I'm thinking, what's this all about? Again, the light at the end of the tunnel I'm referring to is Pattaya, and we stopped off at this service station. The taxi driver said he needed to put petrol in, or gas, or whatever it was, and he had to put petrol in. I'm thinking, again, if I was at home, they wouldn't stop and put petrol in at the side of the road when you're in it. And I'm thinking, what's going on here? It really is a different world out there, and you are thinking about these things. But you also got it in the back of your mind what everyone's talked about when it came to Pattaya and what you could do there, and you're thinking, well, from what I've seen so far, this can't be right. Then you get there, and your taxi pulls up to the hotel that you've booked into, which was quite close to some of the bar areas, and you get in there in the evening and you're looking out of the window and there are girls absolutely everywhere. You're thinking, well, this is great, though how is a guy like me going to go and speak to girls like that? I didn't think it was possible, though I was excited to be there. I was happy, I was euphoric, I think would be the best word to use. I was completely euphoric as to how I was feeling, though also feeling that I had no chance to be able to go and, be the suave guy who can go and talk to girls and find out about things and the ways of Thailand, because I was always shy and reserved, always was, and always have been. I got to the hotel and checked in, as you do, and thinking, yes, it's great, completely wide awake and ready to go and hit the town, ready to go and see what it was like, and I headed out. And where I was staying, just opposite the road, there was a few little bars. I was in one of the sois right in the heart of Pattaya, this small hotel, and I just walked straight across the street into this place. I'm really nervous, not knowing what to think or feel or anything really, because on the one hand it's fantastic and I'm having the greatest time ever, though on the other hand I don't know if I'm going to be able to actually open up and get mine, so to speak. I walked into this bar and, well, let's just say that the rest of history is at the front of it. Everything was so easy, everything was perfect, the girls were charismatic and friendly and all over you, and well, you didn't have to be anything other than a guy. I think that's the real thing. If you were a guy in Pattaya, you were okay. You could have been shy, you could have been reserved, you could have been anything if you were there. If you were a guy, you were fine. You didn't have to worry about being shy, you didn't have to worry about making a move, you didn't have to worry about anything, and it was just perfect in every single way. I had the best time of my life in Thailand for the 2 weeks I was there, the best time I've ever had. Probably, you could take my life from when I was born up until I arrived in Thailand, times that by infinity 1 billion times, and the 2 weeks I had in Thailand were still better than all that put together. I can promise you, I'm not trying to exaggerate by saying that. I'm not trying to take things further than I need to take them, though for a guy like me that was true, because I was this embodiment of who I'd always lived as in my mind. I don't know if any other people out there spend time living in their mind, when you're watching TV after work and you want to forget about that, and you're just watching TV half-heartedly, and in your mind, you're climbing a mountain and rescuing a girl from the top of the mountain, and you're flying airplanes in your own Air Force, and you're doing all these things in your mind and living these dreams and these fantasies, because that's the only way you can experience it, by living them in your mind. You're not living them in your mind anymore, though, because you are with these real girls in Thailand. I had the time of my life, 2 whole weeks in Pattaya, and I want to talk about the 10th day of my holiday there, because that day stood out more than anything else. While up until that point I was having the time of my life, the best time ever, I wasn't thinking about doing everything I could to come back as soon as possible. On that 10th day, I, as you do, met this absolutely spectacular girl who was just, well, basically the sort of girl that you could imagine in your mind living with. The problem was, I mixed the two together. I mixed the fantasy girl that was in my head when I was living life that way, together with the real girl in front of me. I believed that they were one and the same. Okay, they looked slightly different. The nationality was slightly different. Their hair colour was different. Their eye colour was different. Though this was still the fantasy girl that I'd pictured being with all along. I believe that's where everything started to go wrong for me, before I'd even known it was going wrong, when things were still going to go so much right from there. Things were going to get better from there for a very long time, though if I have to think about it, that's when I started to have things go wrong for me. Because, and I don't know how to describe this, and I'm trying to think of the best way I possibly can to describe this, so you can understand exactly how it felt. It felt, as I just said, like when I'm living in my mind and I'm picturing the girl I want to be with. It felt like that, but it felt better than that, because not only can you picture it and imagine it and dream it, you can actually live it and do it at the same time. The girl that I always dreamed about in my mind never did certain things. She never nagged, she never complained, she never broke wind, she never did anything that you wouldn't expect a girl to do. She was always perfect. She was always there for me and me alone. She'd given herself to me, she was mine. Not that she didn't have her own opinions or her own ideas. No, that's not the case. It's like when she was with me, she completely forgot about those, and they weren't important to her, because the only thing important to her in her life was me. That's how I kind of grabbed onto the situation in Thailand, as if to think, this is exactly the case. This is finally how it's meant to be. This is finally what I wanted in my life all along. I think it's because I wanted it so much that I allowed myself to believe that this was a possibility and even a reality, because that girl that I met, she was spectacular. Just like the perfect girl, the perfect dream, the perfect everything. And I believed, for no apparent reason, I can't point to anything as to why I believe this, that she was my dream girl in real human form. We hit it off straight away and spent the night, and the following day I didn't want her to leave, and I'm thinking, I've only got a few days left. I need to do everything I can to keep in touch with this girl. I need to be with her. I need to be everything I can. I spent time with other girls before, which were fantastic, though she was just on a whole other level, and she was about to leave, and I said something along the lines of, well, can you stay another 2 days? She said she's got to work and she's got to send some money to her family. We've all heard that time and time again. You know the stories, and I get it, because that's just the game, isn't it? That's why they're there in the first place. She said, I've got to send some money to the family, but if you could help me, I'll stay with you. The fact that I handed over the equivalent of about 500 quid, that's just insane to think about, though I did, and it wasn't a problem at all. That was the first thing, though, that was completely different to how my dream girl would have been, or the dream girl in my mind, because she never wanted money. She hated money. The dream girl was there for me and me alone, nothing to do with money. But I'm convincing myself that it's exactly the same as the dream, because if I didn't, it wouldn't have been as fun, I suppose, and I wanted the fun feeling, and I'd allow myself to believe that it was real, even though I'd just given her 500 quid. Yes, she was staying with me, and we were travelling to different places around Pattaya, going to this little garden place, which was okay, probably a big garden, I suppose you would call it, this Buddha statue and other things, and she's hand in hand with me, and she's been very attentive and very wholesome, and very, if she's so happy to be with me, and so happy to have met me, and so proud that she's in a position to be able to be with me, and I felt the exact same thing. That really is the thing. I'd allowed myself to believe something that wasn't true. Was she playing the game from the start so well that I was already sold on the possibility of remaining in touch with her when I left? Probably, because I did. If I had to send money to her, so be it. I was even thinking this before she asked. I knew if I wanted to stay with her, I would have to send money for her. I completely overlooked that point as to being, well, never mind, I'm happy to do that, because she was okay with me and we were happy together. It was awful, though, having to leave, because I really didn't want to leave. I was me, finally. What was I meant to do now? I had to go back to work in 3 days' time, and the thought of that was so revolting. It was so devastating to think about that, yes, it's that situation where you start grasping at straws, clutching at different ideas, holding on to anything that you could possibly think about that can keep you somehow in Thailand, or whether it's Thailand in mind, whether it's Thailand because you've got a girl there that you're in touch with every day, so you're living Thailand through her. I think, and this is my opinion, why so many guys end up sending money for a girl that they meet in Thailand, because they in some kind of warped way believe that by sending money to her, she's his connection in Thailand, so he can somehow live Thailand through her when he's not there. I believe that could be the case, and for me, that there is some kind of truth in that, I would say, because I'd felt like I'd already fallen in love with her. I felt like she'd, seen me as being this white knight who had come in and was there for her and her alone, and she there for me, and I didn't want her to work in the bar. We had all the conversations that all the guys have. Don't work in the bar, go and stay with the family. And by the way, I should say that she was 21 and I was 49 at this point. Just a perfect age gap, I thought. I wasn't interested in someone my age because when I was 21, I never had a perfect 21-year-old when I was that age. And I deserved that. Everyone does. Everyone deserves it. So I felt like I was just having what was mine anyway, albeit a little bit too late. We hit it off and we agreed, and she agreed we were going to be exclusive. We were going to work things out and I was going to go back to Thailand as quickly as I possibly could. However I was and how I was, I didn't know yet, because I still didn't know how that was going to be possible. But she was completely perfect, she really was. I mean, she really, really was. There's no other way to say it. She was perfect, because nothing had happened to me up until then, and that was bad, and she was just the embodiment of exactly what my dream girl was, apart from wanting money. I suppose that was the only negative. When I got back to work, though, it was just an absolute torment. A torment it was. I was speaking to her 2 or 3 times per day, mainly on video call, and she was up in her family's village. That was a place called Udon Thani, where she was from, and it progresses from there, I suppose. Yes, she was from Udon Thani, 2 kids, which shocked me a bit, given her age, though it was the same old sob story that you hear time and time again. Kids with this low life in the village. Then you're thinking, how can a low life, and I'm going to use the word peasant, I don't think there's any reason why I can't, but how can a low life peasant have a girl like that better than somebody like me? It's idiotic to think about, absolute lunacy to think about. Then, I start developing theories in my head, and sorry for talking about this, but start developing theories that surely there should be something like in a village situation where, if a guy like that, they should be kind of separated away from beautiful girls like her, because now she's got 2 kids and she's in the bar doing that. Luckily, I thought at the time, I'd come in and helped her, and we can be a family together and don't worry about the situation. That's how I thought. But surely in a village situation, maybe the males and females should be separated somehow, so that situations like this can't happen. Then a guy like me can come in and not have to worry about her already being quite experienced on that front, because that was one of the negatives. You don't want experience in a girl, do you? You want the exact opposite of that. I suppose that's just wishful thinking in a dream, but again, I like to live in my mind, don't I? So I suppose that's why you would say that and why that should be how it should be. But back at work, it's torment, pure torture. A couple of weeks go by and the first time I sent her money, it was 500 quid, and I wasn't earning that much. 500 was a lot of my salary, though I didn't mind because I loved her, she loved me, and we were talking all the time, and we were talking about the future together in Thailand and everything else, and she was always perfect. It was probably only 3 months since I'd arrived back from Thailand, and it was just very difficult to comprehend my situation. Very difficult to think about my lot in life because it wasn't sustainable for me to live like that anymore. I was getting drunk after work just to cope with the veracity of the situation. I was getting depressed and I was getting into work and I was snappy with my co-workers. And then you get someone on the end of the line who's talking about their bank account problems and how something's gone wrong. And I think, you think something going wrong with your bank account is important compared to what's going on with my life right now? I wasn't where I should be mentally. I'm not with the love of my life and I'm not anywhere where I want to be. And you've got this little bit of a problem with your bank account. I started shouting at people on the other end of the line occasionally. Then I'm getting bad performance reviews and well, it was a very quick downward spiral at work because when I'm speaking to her I'm happy and everything's good and I'm sending money to her and that's fine. When I'm at work though, I'm losing control and I'm not able to sustain it anymore because it's like I'm living 2 different lives all at once. One is my real life and one is my fake life. Ultimately, I lost my job about 4 months after returning back, which was a nightmare scenario. That's when you clutch at straws that you didn't even know existed. You didn't even think about before, and I started to look at my position in life. Approaching 50, beautiful girlfriend in Thailand who I wanted to be with more than anything, and I'm thinking, how can I sort myself out? How can I work this out? How can I be okay? And how can I be where I want to be? I owned a house, a very small house, a terraced house in the city I was living in, and at the time it was only worth about £60,000. I actually received that as an inheritance from my grandmother a number of years ago, and that was my biggest possession, a £60,000 house. It wasn't in a nice part of town, it wouldn't be where you would want to live, though I lived there, and I did it, and I accepted it. I'm thinking something, though, that I never thought up until then. When you're reaching to such lows and looking for a way out, I'm thinking I could just move to Thailand and completely reinvent myself. I could do whatever I needed to do to be able to live there, and I could just stay with her. We'd have enough money to get ourselves set up. We've got enough to be able to start building this life together that we could have, and life could be once and for all great. It really could. At the same time as doing that, I'm applying for other jobs, thinking maybe I should get another job, and once I got another job, I'll do this in a few months' time, and then I'll go back to Thailand and make sure I'm happy with her and everything's fine. That's what I'm doing, but after I'd applied for job after job, and after I didn't get a job for a whole month, and I'm not telling her that I've lost a job, not telling her things are bad, I'm still sending her money, which is causing a bit of a strain really, because I didn't have much cash available, and it was going to be a case of I need to sell my house soon anyway. When I didn't get a job after a while, I just did decide to sell the house, and not tell her I was going to live in Thailand, just go back, spend a bit of time with her, say I'm going to go for a month and take it from there. I didn't want to say I would, kind of throw in my towel with her straight away. Although I wanted to be a little bit careful, and I thought I was being so careful by having these ideas. That might be crazy for some people to think about, I suppose, though I thought I was being careful. I'm not going to tell her I'm going to live there. I'll do what I'm doing. I'll sell the house, I'll get the money, trying to get as much as I can together. Then I'll go and tell her I'm going for a month. Not even say, and not even let on that it's my plan to live there forever, just to see how things go during that month. And like I said, that's me believing I'm being smart and clever. And by the way, it made sense to me at the time. When I decided to do this, when that decision was made, it was as if a huge weight had been lifted off my shoulders. I was still depressed because I wasn't with her, and I'm speaking to her 3 or 4 times a day, bear in mind, and I believed everything she was saying to me was true, though it felt like this huge weight was just being lifted. I didn't have to worry anymore about anything. I just had to wait, and I don't have to go to work anymore. I just have to wait. It didn't take long, 2 months, and I was back in Thailand. 2 months of, I suppose, a mixture of euphoria and dread. Dread thinking about, is this really the best thing to do? Although those thoughts were only ever so small and minuscule, and I called them stupid thoughts, and I always pushed those thoughts away. The euphoria of just, I can't wait to go back. When I did get back, I'd asked her if she could come and meet me at the airport, because I just thought that would be a fantastic welcome to Thailand, and she said she'd love to. When I got to Bangkok, she was there, and wow, I couldn't believe it. It was just such a fantastic moment, because although she thought I was only there for a month, I wasn't. I was there for forever. I thought, and it was just a wonderful time to be alive. Probably doesn't make sense that, though that's how I felt, a wonderful time to be alive. Walking through Bangkok airport, seeing the love of your life, thinking about everything that was going to happen over the next months, thinking about this is your new life, what you're going to live. We decided that we were going to spend some time in Bangkok first. I'd never spent a second in Bangkok, apart from at the airport. I'd only been to Pattaya, and she said she would show me the ropes. She said she'd been a number of times, and we went to a place called Sukhumvit, found a hotel, and it was everything I'd wanted it to be. It was just amazing. We probably spent 2 weeks not really doing anything, nothing at all, just spending time in the hotel, going out for something to eat for very cheap food, more time in the hotel, and just being with each other and being happy and content. Well, it was about 2 weeks when I told her I decided I wanted to live there. I wanted to be with you, and I wanted to marry her. I wanted to do everything together, and she seemed so happy about that. She really did. Like I said, I spoke to her on video time and time again since I'd been back at home, and as far as I was concerned, she was with her family. She was doing everything she promised. Did she not answer sometimes? Yes, though not often. If I called 10 times, she might not have answered 2, and I thought that was great. I mean, sometimes she called me and I didn't answer, so I believed everything was going according to plan, and we got engaged to get married. We weren't going to rush and get married quickly, though since we were engaged, that was when I felt like I had a bit of a step in the door. That was one step closer to this dream life. I knew, though, based on what I had, which wasn't a lot of money, that I would need to potentially work, and I would potentially need to make some money. I thought teaching would most likely be the possibility, but I didn't mind. As long as it could let me stay with her, I didn't care about how much money I had. I didn't care about anything apart from being with her. When I'm thinking and looking into the teaching side of things over the next few weeks, we might be able to bring in 30,000 baht a month, and I'm giving her 500 quid a month, which is, just under that amount. But it's sort of the thing that you can put to the back of your mind and try to forget about, because anything other than doing that will ruin the illusion that you're living in. Things are going okay, though. We're not looking for work to start with. We're engaged and happy. And we went to Pattaya for a week, and I went to extend my 30 days for another 15 at immigration in Pattaya. She went with me for that. And when that 15 days was coming to an end, we were talking about going up to visit the family. We hadn't done that yet, but I needed to go and get a visa. I was going to get a tourist visa. I found a company that could help me get that, go and get it from Laos, and we decided that we would both go to Laos together because it was close to Udon Thani. Go to Vientiane, get that visa, and then go for an introduction to the family. That's what we were thinking of. Where my story takes a bit of a twist is when we got to Udon Thani. Bear in mind, we'd been happy together for a long time, very long time, and bear in mind up until this point, she's been perfect in every single way. When we got to Udon Thani, oh well, it's not Udon Thani next to the border with Laos, is it? It's the other one. It's Nong Khai. When we got to Nong Khai, just about to cross over, I had a message on my phone saying I needed to call someone back at home quickly, and I found out the dreadful news that my father had passed away very unexpectedly. We weren't very close. It was a very sad thing, though. I was heartbroken. He'd passed away, and yes, you're going to need to come back home and sort some things out. And that was a huge spanner in the works because, yes, it was heartbreaking. My mum had actually died quite a long time before this, and my dad was single. I was an only child, and I needed to go back, and I didn't know what to do. We're in Nong Khai, and I've told her what's happened, and she's heartbroken, and I just wished I could have taken her with me, though you know how difficult it is to get a visa for your girlfriend to go to the UK, especially on short notice. She just said, well, you go and do what you need to do, and I'll be waiting for you, don't worry. We decided that I wouldn't see their family then, and I parted ways with the visa company, went to Udon Thani, she went to see the family, and I flew to Bangkok and flew back home, devastated to be taken away from her, though also devastated at the loss of my father. It was a really difficult time. Over the next few days, I realised that something that I hadn't even thought about up until then, and I was told by the solicitor that your dad's left you his house, and I wasn't even thinking about that. You know, we weren't that close. We spoke once or twice every 3 weeks or a month, maybe not a lot, and yeah, I didn't pay attention to his business, he didn't pay attention to mine. But yes, your dad's left you his house and didn't really have anything else. I got my grandmother's house before, which I'd sold. Now I had this house, and it was worth a little bit more than my grandmother's house, probably £80,000. Now you've got this, and yeah, the probate should be quite quick because there's not much else to do. And then I was told to sign this, sign that, and then I'm doing everything, staying in a very cheap hotel, and I was there for a week. I was just told to wait and things will get sorted out. It was so heartbreaking. I went to the funeral and did everything like that, and anyway, such a difficult time, a really, really difficult time. I'm speaking, though, with her all the time, and she's kind of getting me through it. I'm sending money as needed, and everything seemed to be going fine on that front. I got back to Thailand, back in Bangkok, she met me again, and we carried on. While in a way having that extra £80,000 when the house sold would be better and get us set up better, it was still also sickening to realise that my father had died. It was awful. But anyway, life happens, and I suppose it happens to all of us at some point. After that, we spent a week together in Bangkok, and she was just making me feel better and being with me and being everything you'd want a girl to be. Then that's when we went up to the family for the introductions and to talk about the wedding, to talk about everything that I would need to do, and yes, I was one of the guys that paid Sinsod. That was going to be in 2 weeks' time. We had 2 weeks to spend around that area together before the wedding. The family was going to arrange everything. They were going to get this big band to come and play. They were going to get everything. And it was going to cost 200,000 baht for the whole thing, which I'd paid for and given to them so they could set it up, and I was happy to do it. I suppose I was feeling like I was being welcomed into the family, and perhaps I was, just not in the way I thought I was. We spent those 2 weeks together, then we got married, 200,000 baht Sinsod, and that meant I spent £10,000 out of the 60,000 that had already gone, though I'm clinging to the fact that I've got this other 80,000 coming soon, and by this point, the house was already on the market. It was a very quick process to get all that sorted out, but after that, though, we got married together in Bangkok officially, and this was probably, I'm thinking, 2014. So when I said 10 years ago, I was a bit off. About 2014 is when we got married, and it was a very happy time for me, a hugely happy time in my life. I definitely wasn't the sort of guy who could see himself living up in Isan, and she wasn't the sort of girl who seemed to want to be there when I talked about it with her. Because I'd seen, when we were in Udon, I'd seen a number of foreigners who were living there in houses that they'd built, and I said, would you ever want to live here? And she said, no, not now. I feel like I'm too young, she said. I'd like to live there in the future, but not now. Her kids were living there with her parents, and I was saying, perhaps we can have them live with us, but she said no, they're better to stay with my parents, because it just seemed to be how they did things there, and if she wanted her kids to stay with us, I would have been fine with it. If she wanted them to stay with her parents, that's up to her. After we were married, I knew I could get a visa based on that, which is something I was very keen to do, and we went away together to Laos again, though to a different place, not to Vientiane. We went to Savannah because I was told that's where you can get a marriage visa from, which you can extend in Thailand. We went to Savannah together, and it was when we were there that we decided we needed to go on a honeymoon after we got back to Thailand, though that would have to be after I'd extended the visa, which would be in a few months' time. Anyway, I just want to talk about that whole period of time as quickly as I can, because it was a wonderful time. I got the visa, we rented a small place in Pattaya, spent time together, just in love with each other, and she's perfect in every single way. Every single way, and let me say that again, every single way. She never shouts, she never nags, she never complains, she never seems to want to be anything other than what I want her to be, and it's perfect for the whole time. I extend the visa, and we decided to go away on holiday for a kind of belated honeymoon, looking at different countries around the region. We decided, though, just to go to Vietnam. It wasn't too far away, and the places I wanted to go to, she would have needed a visa for, so that's why we went to Vietnam. I don't know, back then, this was 2015, probably at this point, I believe, 2015. I didn't really like Vietnam. Whether it's changed today, like some people seem to call it the new Thailand, or better than Thailand, I don't know. I mean, it was affordable and it was cheaper than Thailand back then, it was, though I didn't really like it. But being with her, I liked it, and we had a great time, though I wouldn't have wanted to have gone back. When we arrived back in Thailand from that honeymoon, though, that was when, the house sale had gone through, probate had completed and everything was quick, and I'd now had more money in my bank, and I had over £100,000, and I felt like I was king of the world. I felt like I was loaded, because I'd never seen that kind of money before. It was still bittersweet, though, because I had to lose my father, which was an awful thing to happen. A bittersweet moment would be the best way to describe it. But now we've got a good amount of money. But I need to stress, though, that she's still continuing to be absolutely perfect at this point. Yes, I'm giving her the equivalent of £500 a month, and that was the deal all along. But yes, it was perfect. She was not doing anything to ruin the illusion, and living in the same place in Pattaya, we're spending all our time together. She never goes out and gets drunk. I never go out and get drunk. I'd stopped completely drinking, and this went on for a good 6 months minimum. A good 6 months minimum, all the way through a lot of 2015. Everything is perfect. She's perfect. We only had a little one-bedroom place, and I don't know how I can describe certain things, but she was always very dainty and delicate and polite, I found. It was a few things that I'm kind of noticing that I didn't think I noticed properly at the time. Although if I think about it, there were little incidents that happened that weren't necessarily bad things, but they were kind of things that once you see it once, you can't unsee it. Though it's nothing to make you change your mind about who you're in love with or things like that. It's nothing to do with that. But it's just the way she seemed to be getting a little bit more comfortable around me, doing things that you kind of think girls should be hiding. Like she was always, it was like she was, I don't know how I'm trying to say this here because I don't want to sound stupid. I don't want to sound like I'm a bad person because that's not the case at all. It was like when we were together for the first time and for those amazing months and probably longer than that, she never, and I'll say it as politely as I can, she never broke wind in front of me. She never belched in front of me, not once. Not by accident or anything. When she does that once, you can't unsee it because you don't picture your wife like that, do you? You don't see your perfect girl who was just turned and how old was she now? 22. She was just meant to be this dream figure. She was the girl in my mind. But I didn't care too much. It was a kind of subconscious sort of telling myself, well, be careful because this is real. This is real. This is not a fantasy. This is real. I was trying to convince myself all along that it was a fantasy. So I suppose that would be the case, the first thing to say again. Not too much to get concerned about. I didn't believe, but still, the fantasy wasn't really a fantasy. It was real life. A bit more time's going on and not spending a lot of money though. I'm not working yet and that's the thing. Apart from the £500 a month that I was giving to her, the rent on the place was 9,000 baht, and we probably spent another 20,000 baht on top of that. So all in, £1,000 a month, maybe just over £1,000 a month, and most of that going to her. We didn't eat Western food or anything expensive, didn't really go out to drink, didn't go to the bars, and she seemed to be happy with that, and I was happy with that, and we were happy with that together. It's getting to the point, though, where I'm not really enjoying Pattaya anymore, and she seems to not want to be in Pattaya anymore too, and it's like, why are we even in Pattaya? Then we're trying to decide why we'd be there, and we don't know, so we decided to move to Hua Hin after going for a visit and really liking it. It was more laid back than Pattaya. It didn't have the seedy side of it that Pattaya had, and it still had the sea and it was still very scenic, and that's where we decided to move to, and rented somewhere there. After a few months, we made the decision that we were going to buy somewhere, which was a huge mistake. We were going to buy a house, and at this point I was already looking at teaching positions around Hua Hin, and I found a place where I could do a TEFL course, something I would have needed to have done to get the job. It was just steady away. I had no problem with working for a small amount of money because we didn't spend a lot. We weren't those people who blew through money. She got some money and that was it. Everything else was cheap. We decided to buy this place and it was 2.5 million baht, and this must have been when? 2016. So I'd been with her for what I felt like was a long time at this point, and okay, there are fantasy-jarring incidents happening all the time, and I'm overlooking them because I'm just understanding that this is real life, though it's not perfect like it was before. It wasn't perfect, though I suppose this is just, the start of things to come. And why, when things weren't becoming perfect anymore and things weren't perfect like they used to be, I decided to buy this house, I don't know, but I did. And anyway, 2.5 million baht. We put into this house probably £50,000 all in. And I think we'd bought a car by this point, and that was about 10,000 or so. So what I'd been spending and what I had left, I'd probably spent 60% of the money that I'd already had, and that was all gone. In 2016, I did a TEFL course and I started teaching, and that was where we were at the point in our lives. Things were going quite well. I thought they were. Teaching is going well. I'm not making a lot of money. I was actually paid 32,000 baht, so that probably meant that out of savings I was losing £300 a month, which I felt was affordable. I could do it indefinitely, so no problems at all. When we had the house, that was when she is again, seemingly putting less effort in. I'm not saying that she went out to get drunk and cheated on me, she didn't. Or she might have done when I was working, I don't know, who knows. But when I was there though, it never happened. At night time or anything, it never happened. Who knows what happens when I wasn't there? You can never actually know, can you? You can never be certain. But I'd come back, and this is a few months after we'd been living there, and she wouldn't have done her hair and she wouldn't have makeup on like she used to have. And she's wearing really baggy trousers and a really baggy t-shirt and underwear that's, like boxer short style thing. And that was never what she did before. And sometimes she'd have my underwear on and I didn't understand it because that was never who she was. She never ever wore things like that before. While it's not necessarily a huge problem, it's really putting me off the situation to the point of not wanting to be with her. The excitement is phasing quickly, and after we'd been in the house for a while and after I was teaching, the excitement was fading so fast and I couldn't understand why. The girl that I thought I met was changing in front of me, and she was getting more comfortable. I think that's the only way I can describe it. She was getting so comfortable just lounging around in unattractive clothing, not doing her hair, not putting makeup on, and it wasn't the same kind of affection. Although the affection was still there, it wasn't the fantasy anymore. I don't know if it's my mind trying to find fault at the time, because I was happy in some ways, though I wanted to come home to this beautiful, vivacious girl who had beautiful makeup on, beautiful long straight hair, a thong and a t-shirt kind of thing, like that's what she did before. I'm not expecting something she never did, but it's like, why are you changing? Then she's breaking wind all the time and burping all the time, and it's like, what are you doing? You didn't do that before. If you did that before, I wouldn't have been with you. I suppose I was getting quite disappointed, although I hadn't said anything to her even once, though you would come home and you'd not be excited and really wondering, what fantasy? Where's it gone? Where has the fantasy gone? You were everything before and now you're nothing, and it's really taking its toll on me mentally. And I come home again, you'd arrive there and the fantasy would have completely gone, and you'd be left with the reality of, okay, she's still beautiful and okay that, though you can be thinking about what's going to happen. Then all of a sudden she'll break wind and you'll completely lose any kind of desire and any kind of wonder and any kind of excitement as to what was to come that evening. Then when whatever happens, it's not the same, is it? Because you're starting to realise that this isn't like it's meant to be. I suppose it's all in my head, and some people might be listening to this thinking I'm completely crazy, and you might think I am, and I'm not having a problem with anything anyone thinks about me. But why has she just decided to not be the same as she used to be? While some people will say, well, she wasn't cheating on you yet. Well, I don't think she was. She was with you. Yes, she was. She was getting 20,000 baht a month from me. Well, 500 quid a month, so that's more than 20,000 baht a month that she was getting from me at the time. I'm not having any problems with that, though I feel like she's not keeping up with her end of the bargain. Why was I giving her 500 quid a month, or whatever it was? Well, for some reason, we were talking about 500 quid a month, even though we were living in Thailand. It was like that's what we talked about when I went back to the UK, and then I just happened to give her that, and it was like, whatever the exchange rate is, you'll get this kind of thing. Why am I giving you this, and you're behaving in such an appalling manner? I thought that was appalling, and I was kind of thinking, and again, I'm not really trying to justify things in a way, but if she cheated on me, while that would have been so heartbreaking and devastating, that wouldn't have been as bad as what she was doing, because although she was with me, and when we went out, she'd doll herself up a bit and be like she used to be, but we didn't go out that often, because we don't spend a lot of money, and she's okay not going out. But if she cheated on me and stayed the same, okay, that would have been bad, though at least the fantasy would have still been alive in some kind of way. Now the fantasy is not alive, and I'm not saying that it happened quickly. This is throughout a number of months in 2016, and I'm getting home from work and it's just the same time and time again, and I'm getting more distant from her, and I come back and again it's not like she didn't want to be my wife anymore, it was like she didn't want to be my wife anymore, if that makes sense. I'll have to say it again, so I have to understand it for you, but it was like she didn't want to be my wife anymore, but she still wanted to be my wife. I don't know if I can get that across in a better way, but to me it was like she wanted the best of both worlds and not to be the way she wanted to be, but I don't know. But, and I need to ask this, why did she never break wind in front of me when we met? For months and months and years, she didn't do that. And then all of a sudden, she's doing it like it's nothing and laughing. And I'm looking at her when she's not got makeup on and thinking, these two things just don't add up. How does this work? How can someone as beautiful as that do something like that? Of course, I know I'm not stupid, though I always thought that was things that should be hidden. Things like that were meant to be separated. You've got life and fantasy, and I thought she knew that this was like a fantasy thing for me. I thought that's what it was meant to be. I don't know, it's quite difficult to talk about because it was ruining me. It was devastating me. I didn't say anything because I didn't want to hurt her feelings, but yeah, it's like I don't know if she doesn't clean her teeth sometimes, and it's awful to think about. I don't know why she's doing this. It's just very difficult to relive this because on the one hand, life's okay. We've got the house, okay, that belonged to her, and we've got the car, okay, that belonged to her. I don't know why I bought it in her name, the car I did, but I've got the job. She's getting money. As I said, I'm probably losing out of saving 300 quid a month, but this could have gone on for 20 years and would have still been okay and still had things. But okay, did I want to work in my 70s? I don't know. But I felt proud to be working in Thailand, that's one thing. And by the way, I had a work permit too, a work permit to work at the school, and I felt proud of that. I felt like I'd just won in life by being able to work in Thailand, so it wasn't a problem for me working and I was happy to do it. The problem was her. It got to the point, and I think this was around the end of 2016, where it was a Friday after work and I just couldn't take myself to go home. I couldn't bring myself to go home because I'd known that, okay, she'd be there and she wouldn't be there, would she? This version of herself, this new version of herself, this girl who's not shy anymore, she's not reserved, she's not the same anymore, she's going to be there, and I didn't want to go home to that, so I went out to get drunk. I went to Soy Bintabat, and well, I had a bit of an accident. That's how I want to put it. It was an accident. The girl who I met on Soy Bintabat that night, she was exactly like the girl I met, my wife. She was exactly like my wife when I met her. Beautiful looking, done her hair, makeup on, not doing anything uncouth, not being a shadow of herself, I suppose. She was brilliant, and again the fantasies coming back to life, and wow, I had the time of my life that evening, and just wondering, why can't my wife be like this? It was the time of my life, and I cheated on my wife for the first time. Then I'm finding this is going on time and time again, cheating on her more and more, and I'm feeling bad. But she doesn't know though, but I am feeling bad. But I'm not feeling bad at the same time because I come home quite late on a Friday. Let's just say it happened maybe 10 times since then, and I come home late, and I'm feeling bad when I'm rocking up to the house because of how she will feel if she found out. But I go into the house and again, she's not put any effort into her appearance or anything. I sit down and we watch TV together and yeah, she's laughing and smiling, but every time she breaks wind and belches, it's awful to think about. And again, all the time she's doing this and grinding her teeth and all these rude things, and I don't know what I'm meant to think and I don't know what I'm meant to do. It was such a difficult time. A couple of months go by and I'm thinking I need to get divorced. But that was when it hit me that I was trapped in a way. I couldn't get divorced from her because if I did, I would lose the house and the car, and I wouldn't have a place to live anymore, and then that's when you start feeling trapped in the situation. That was when it really hit me that, doing what I did and investing the money I did was quite a bad idea, because what else was I meant to do? I wanted to get divorced, and I would have got divorced. Even if I could have had half of everything, that would have been enough. And I should have had it all because I paid for it, but that wasn't going to happen. I contacted a lawyer around this time, thinking about things, and again, my wife's oblivious to what's going on. Again, she could have been cheating on me when I wasn't there. She could have been doing all kinds of things, I don't know. Perhaps she was waiting for me to get more, I don't know. Perhaps she was trying to put me off. Perhaps that's what she was doing. But I don't know. I contacted a lawyer and said, well, you could try and fight it if you want to. It's going to cost however much it was. And it just didn't seem worth it for the small chance of actually getting something back and anything happening. I couldn't believe just how difficult a time I was having, though. She allowed herself to get so comfortable around me that anything sacred between us was no longer there. Anything exciting was no longer there. And I'm finding that excitement elsewhere. And now I'm trapped. I can't get my money out. Bear in mind, I said I had about 60% spent out of money I'd spent so far, and I'm thinking about it. This is more likely 2017-ish at this time. Maybe about 65% of what I had was all gone. And it was so upsetting, because every week I'm having a night out a week, and I'm just saying I'm seeing friends from work or whatever I was saying. I'm not proud of myself that I was cheating on her, though that was what I allowed myself to do. But I didn't feel in a way like I was cheating her, or because it felt like she was cheating on me by not being who she was when we met. Again, I was finding my own wife in the bars, because that was what I was attracted to, this fantasy version of it, and I'm looking back on this, and you have to understand I'm shaking my head and thinking, why was I thinking that? I should have just been happy because she was good in certain ways, though it wasn't good at the time. It was awful at the time. It got to the point where I wasn't being careful anymore, and she found out that I cheated on her, and she went ballistic. She went completely berserk. Why do you do this to me? All this kind of stuff. That was when I had to tell her why. Why do you change? She said, I'm not changed. I stay with you. I never do bad to you. Well, she didn't, I suppose. But did she? I don't know. Because she wasn't being the fantasy version. That's what I had to say. She wasn't being the fantasy version of who she was meant to be. Well, it was only, I suppose, after she did find out I cheated on her, and after that was found out, now we were on rocky grounds, that I suppose I started to panic and think, well, I don't really want to lose her at all. I was just convincing myself for whatever reason that she wasn't properly behaving anymore, and that was why I was cheating on her. Now I'm thinking, oh no, she's getting upset. Well, it was just mind games going on in my head that I don't even know what was going on. I suppose that's the thing. That's the bad situation of it. Because I got to the point where I didn't want to lose her anymore, and I'm not cheating on her anymore, but she's, well, more distant, and okay, a few weeks, and then I do cheat on her, because she's being more distant, and then she finds out again, and I might as well just say it as it is. We got to the point where she didn't want to stay with me, and we got divorced, and I lost it all. And it hit me that, well, I didn't really need to lose that, and I was devastated at the time. It was like I didn't need to do that, and I did it anyway, because at the time I wanted one thing, and she was being something else, and when I realised what I'd lost, it was awful. What I felt so appalling, though, was her behaviour. That's why I did it, and it's really difficult to say because it's like my mind is so mixed up. She could have cheated on me, like I said, and it wouldn't have been as bad. But now I've lost her. That was when it hit me that I've lost something good, and it was stupid, as I know. And I'm thinking all about these things, and maybe I'm thinking, was it her plan all along anyway? I don't know. I'll behave so badly in front of him, I'll be so uncouth, I'll be so uncultured, so unexciting that he'll do these things. Perhaps that was her plan, and if it was, that's what she got out of me. Then, like many guys do, I hit the bottle hard, not caring about anything, going wild around Soy Bintabad, still working, and I might only earn 32,000 baht a month, and this was 2018 probably at this point, but I'm spending that money and I'm spending through other money as well. I'm probably spending 100,000 baht a month that was going out, just trying to drown everything out, and money's going down and money's going down and down and down, and then it's like going to the point where I just lost control. I'd completely lost control. That's where it ended for me in Thailand, because I did run out of money around 2019, all of it gone, not being able to believe what was going on. I was still teaching though. It got to the point where I am still teaching, early 2019, but no money left in terms of savings, and I tried to pick myself up and get myself pulled together and try to meet another girl who I wanted to be with, though nothing happened, and well, I couldn't live on that amount of money anymore, because I needed the drink, I needed the attention from the girls, I needed that excitement bag, I needed the fantasy bag. Ultimately, I had to go home. Then we had COVID happening, which was worse, and I should have been in Thailand for that, but I wasn't. That's basically what happened to me. I believe that it was my fault. If I look back on it and look back on the whole situation, though as I said at the start, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. The thing was, that was probably who she was, though she was putting on an act to be this perfect version of herself for as long as she was. Perhaps she thought nothing of being who she was in front of me because I was her husband, but that was what ruined it for me. I didn't want that. I wanted the fantasy version. I wanted the sanitary version, the beautiful, eccentric, exciting girl version of her to be the version of her that was with me forever, and it was because of that I did what I did. That's why we got divorced and everything happened. But it was probably my fault more than anything, and perhaps, I had a good one, or perhaps she was just playing me all along, and she wanted me to be so uncultured in front of me to make me do the things I did. I will never know, though that's what happened. I often think about things now, and well, I don't even know what to say. I'm in a very bad position. I hate my life. I've lost all that, and everything's wrong, and I wonder what would have been now if I'd just been with her. Would I have still been with her if everything was fine and I didn't cheat on her and I didn't accept things that she did in a way that made me do that, and I just took it for what it was? She could have been approaching 30 now, wouldn't she? I mean, she would have been. She'd have been over 30. She'd have been, I guess, 35 or 36, maybe not, maybe a bit younger, but I'd have been older than her. But anyway, everyone gets older. Well, it could have worked out, and it could have been a mutually beneficial thing, and I could have accepted it, but I didn't. I really didn't want that, and I will never know what her motivations were. I really will never know. I will only know that I am where I am now, and I wish I could go back and change things, because if I would have just accepted who she was and how she was behaving, even though it repulsed me, even though it disturbed me to such levels. But I would have taken it, because at least I would still be there now, with money, living the life I wanted to live. Or would I? Perhaps something else would have gone wrong instead. That's the thing, you never know. Perhaps if I was there, something else would have gone wrong and she would have cheated on me and I would have lost everything anyway. But ultimately, I get to the point where I'm thinking, there's no point trying to think about what could have been if things were like they were. Things are like they are, things are like they will be forever. And it was just one of those bad situations which I wish I could go back and change, but I can't. I will leave you just by saying, if something goes wrong that's only minor, perhaps it's not minor at the time, in your head it's not minor, it's a major, awful thing that you don't want to have to accept. But ultimately it would have been better if I had just accepted it, even though it disturbed me to such awfully high levels.